to rotate. So we will stay at each table probably for about 20 minutes. I don't want to have it go on for too long, so 15, 20 minutes. One person will be a designated facilitator. So you guys can choose among yourselves who you want to be the facilitator because there are prompts to take you all through. But I do want you to spend a little bit of time marinating at each table. So we're going to do it for 15 to 20 minutes. So we're going to start counting off. I see someone running away. He's like, oh, don't count me. It's like, nope. He sure was filming though. All right. Okay, so let's do, I know. One, David, participate? Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay. So I don't know. Maybe we need to make the groups, the numbers a little smaller, I'm thinking. What do you guys think?
She's gonna have to leave in a few minutes.
You're gonna have to leave in a few minutes?
Yeah. To go to get her gun.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's a different type of workshop. That's a different type of workshop. Okay, so let me think. Why don't we count off? There's not that many, so why don't we see what happens if we count off in like, I don't know. What do you guys think? How many numbers? Should we do 3? Yeah. I think 3s. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay, 3. Okay, perfect. So, all right. So we have 1s and 2s and 3s. So what we can do, because there's 4 tables, trying to think how to work this. Let's get through like the first 3 tables, and then everyone can gather at the 4th table. There's, not so many people where we can't do that. All right.
Which table is
so each table is labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that table in the front, I believe, is either 1 or 4.
We can do 1.
It's labeled on the table.
Oh.
Yes. So table 4 we can gather at the end. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
We get names. Oh, that's my mouse.
What number were you? I gave it to you.
You were 3.
So stay right where you are.
This one.
So
1.
what number were you?
This is 1.
This is 1. This is table 1. Table 1, 2, 3.
Am I?
I think it's fine.
Probably
Looks
only
like a
one.
good table size, Karma. If you want to stay at that table,
It's turned into musical chairs now.
there are musical chairs, but it's okay. It's part of the experience.
Yes.
Okay.
How many entrepreneurs
So-
does it take to figure out a number?
I will be floating between the tables to give you. What you do and like why are you here? Why are you passionate about transformation?
Okay, let's see. No pressure, right?
No pressure.
Easy fireside.
Easy fireside.
Let's see. So, gosh, where to start? Anywhere, where to start? Let's see. Okay, I grew up in Sacramento, California, and I grew up playing competitive tennis. And spent a ton of hours out on the tennis court and got quite good. But one thing I learned from being out on the tennis court was I learned probably at the age of 17 that I really hated feedback. I hated getting feedback.
Criticism.
Criticism. So when I went into my career, and into corporate, I was avoiding feedback at all costs. Like I didn't want anyone to give me feedback on what to do or how to do it. I just wanted to do my best job but be left alone. And one thing I learned, one transformation I made, was observing executives and leaders coming to the HR department as one source to ask for feedback, to ask for help. I saw MBAs coming to the HR department, like the C-suite. I'm like, why are they've got these giant titles, they're making a lot of money. Why would they be here asking for help? And I came to learn, I had a realization that these are curious people, they're smart people, and that's how they're getting better.
Right.
They're asking for help. So I had that realization probably in my mid-20s that, oh, you ask for help. So that set me on a journey of becoming more curious and asking for help in my career. But I got my career started in the music industry at the William Morris Agency, where I was the assistant to the agent to Whitney Houston. So that was right after her Bodyguard tour. And I was making, this is a few years ago, I won't give the date, but I think when I go back, I think I was making like $6.14 an hour. It was something like ridiculous. I was living on Top Ramen and trying to do the LA thing. And it just was too hard. It's like, what kind of car do you drive? And it just, I couldn't really compete with that type of...
But you were close to some of the greatest people. So
Oh, absolutely.
It's worth it.
Absolutely. It was a trade-off. So I got the free concert tickets and all that, but it was just too hard of a journey.
Work for tickets.
Work for tickets. I had to take a bus to the concert. That's right. I took my Hyundai Prius to the concerts. But from there, I decided that music wasn't going to be the long-term journey for me, and that took me from LA to the Bay Area. And I had a friend who worked in a temp agency, and she said, okay, you've just moved up. Can I send you out to a temp assignment? And she sent me into the HR department of a biotech firm. So on one hand, I'm like, okay, this is not as sexy as the music industry. This is so unsexy. But this HR thing is kind of cool. Like, I can look in people's personnel records. There was a woman who was leading the HR department who I got to see her compensation, and it was just eye-popping for me. I'm like, what? You can even make that much money? Like, so I also had money mindset issues, I would say, back in that day. Like, it just seemed like you started at the bottom of the rung, and the name of the game was just this very slow walk up the ladder. Anyway, now I know. Now I'm older and smarter. It's like you can be an entrepreneur. You can do other things to make a lot of money. But at that time, I thought it was just a very slow progression. So I saw what this head of HR was making, and I thought, well, okay, number one, I kind of like this human resources thing. This is interesting. Yeah. I'm working with everybody at the company. People come here to ask for help, which I've then learned, like, oh, okay, this is what people do. And I thought, well, there could be a career here for me. And so that was my first kind of entree into human resources. So, and still to this day, I hate the word human resources. It's so, and people don't like it. It's like, ooh, you work in HR, like that's like kind of gross and scary. So, but anyway, I try to say it's a people. I work with the people. I help. This is a people-oriented job. And from there, I knew, okay, well, the biotech firm, that's been fun. I was supposed to stay 4 days. I stayed 4 months. I had a great experience. But then I knew creative services seemed a little bit more like me. That's what led me into working for a couple of different global ad agencies in the HR department. So, yeah, I've been a human resources professional for a couple of decades now. And part of what I love so much is working with the leaders. I've learned so much, and that's part of my journey in transformation is I've seen them, I've been observing them, I've been watching them, I've been meeting with them. It's like, what is the secret sauce?
Right.
Why do people like working with that guy over there and that woman over there, but she's a little bit hard to work with, or he's hard to work with? What is that dynamic? And I've been informally auditing all of this for many, many years, and have been fortunate to work with a lot of great top leaders, and have enjoyed this HR career. And learning about leaders, and like I mentioned earlier, in 2021, I decided to quit the corporate structure and a very challenging, I shouldn't say this on camera, whatever you want. It was time for a change. So I went out on my own to be an entrepreneur. My mom and dad had been entrepreneurs. They were real estate brokers when I was growing up. And I came to associate entrepreneurship with something that was really, really hard. I noticed I'm struggling and working really hard and working 7 days a week, financial ups and downs. So for me, in my mind, I thought, oh, that's a hard path. That was another story I had. So
It has
now,
to be hard. Money doesn't come easily.
it's going to be hard. We're going to have a struggle.
creating.
Right. And in hindsight, I've learned that, I don't know that they were doing all the right things to sustain the business. Just to be transparent, they would probably admit the same thing. So they left their brokerage to go work in more of a corporate structure. But so I, in 2021, began this crazy, insane journey of entrepreneurship and really learning, how does this even work, or what is this, and getting pressured by people. It's like, you have to be on Instagram, you have to be an influencer, and you have to do this and have to do that, until I learned I can do whatever I want. Like, whatever's working for me, I should do that. Anyway, that is my kickoff to your question.
I love that kickoff. So
with that in mind of like, I can do whatever I want. You also recently wrote a book,
Yeah.
a candid conversation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like that, like just because I read the book, it's very meta. It's like you're having a candid conversation with
Yeah.
people who are reading it
Yeah.
about leadership, about mindset, about
Yeah.
transformation. But in the process of reading it, I feel like you're really having that conversation with yourself. Like
Oh,
you can
yes.
feel that awakening.
Yeah.
So what was the catalyst for writing that book?
Okay, yeah, so I wrote a book. It's called, and some of you have it in your VIP kits. So yes, so the book is really personal, and it's interesting because I have coworkers that knew I wrote the book, and they're like, yeah, I read your book. I'm like, it's so personal. I'm like, okay. Or I'm going to read your book. I'm like, okay, it's a personal book. But the reason I wrote the book is because I went through a very difficult divorce. And I had many years of a very challenging relationship. And I wanted to, and I overcame all of that. I got divorced. I went through some very difficult years in reflection and transformation and all kinds of things. And I thought, I just felt like I wanted to write it down. I wanted to write the journey, especially getting to the other end of the journey, in which I'm probably not all the way healed. I might never be, but definitely overcame a lot. That was the impetus to the book, was let me share this journey, which I think can also be in service to other women. Men have read the book and they're like, wow, it's also a story of growing up in a household with addiction issues, and me as an adolescent, just your own struggles with your own insecurities. So wrote that down, and I did work with a publisher, independent publisher, and we were rounding some things out, so the book was going to be about mostly the relationship, but then I thought, well, let's think about why did I make these choices? let's go there. So I added a lot about, again, my youth and childhood and just different things that led to some of the decisions I made. And then I thought, well, let's talk about the present, about this journey I'm on with entrepreneurship or my corporate work, and what I've learned or how I've grown, or different pieces of advice I would give. So it's kind of an arc in that way. And but the initial reason I wrote it was to talk about the relationship and what I've learned. But obviously I'm learning and growing even to this day.
Oh yeah.
And but that's the reason for the book.
What year did you start writing it?
It also came from a lot of journals that I kept. It was a culmination of journals. As I was writing the book, I pulled out all my journals and wrote them down or took photos of them and captured. Mm-hmm. And I think I read about this in the book, but at the very end, when I was done with the book, any journal I'd ever had in my whole entire life, I threw in the trash can. I threw
everything was in one spot.
Yes, I took it all to the trash can outside of my house, from the brown trash. I took the lid, I dumped everything in there. I'm like, you know what? It's anything I needed to save, it's in the book. Right. And all the journals, I just put them in the trash. So to that extent, I've been writing the book for a while because of the journals. But the book came out a year ago, October 2023, and I was in the writing process for a good solid year.
Yeah.
Where I was literally in 2023 working on the book, writing, editing, every single Saturday from about 12 to 5 p.m. without fail, every single Saturday. It was really grueling, in fact. Yeah, so now 2024, I'm like, I have so much time. Like, this is amazing. Because I really was, and Nadia and I were in this mastermind in 2023. I had a lot going on. So 2024 is feeling a lot freer for me.
I feel like 2023 was the year of kind of just peeling it all back and being high drama, high trauma. Let's look through all of these pages of things. October in particular was an interesting month for us last year, which is crazy to think that it's been that long, because in this mastermind that we were in, so it was a year-long commitment, and there was 2 in-person retreats, and then every other month, so you have a one-on-one with the leader, and then there's a group call, and there's the 2 retreats. So we were at the second retreat October last year, which was in LA, and I feel like towards the end of it, we were both pretty exhausted. At least I, for sure, was just getting emotionally exhausted, because there's a lot going on. So you said your book released that month as well. So after, and thinking now, a whole year later, how do you feel like you have grown and transformed from that period of kind of just, I don't know, like a little bit of like feeling in flux and just, like, you know, to right now?
That's a good question. Wow. Well, I mean, on a personal note, so I have 2 children, 2 boys who are, let me think of their ages, 18 and 21. And my 21-year-old is now a senior in college. My 18-year-old is now a freshman in college. So I think also, and being divorced, you know, I was a single parent. And once I got my youngest son, you know, he got accepted into college. We did all the applications, all of that thing. He got accepted into college. I just felt like that was also a big release of, I mean, although I'm still raising my children, but it was a big release of my duties for like driving them and all of that has lifted. So that was really huge. The book was launched. That again was a year-long commitment. That was released. I always knew, I've been in the Bay Area for a couple of decades. I always knew when my son graduated, I was probably leaving the Bay Area, and I had to make that decision, and I moved in August. So that's like a giant thing on the vision board. It's like, okay, we did that. It's just a lot that released.
Yeah.
And that's why I think in 2024, I feel a little lighter, although, and you and I talk as far as the business. Is the business, it's good. Is it as like gigantic as I want it? No. And I think I'm in a little bit of a season of recovery, to be quite honest, where I did the move. I made the move on the vision board, but now it's still, just in a little bit of a season of recovery before I turn it up, before Nadia makes me go be visible.
Go be visible now. Well, you're visible right now.
Yes.
You're talking about it. Well, over last year, obviously, there's been a lot of transformation, and like, you know, the type of transformation we all go through, it's like our season looks a little bit different for all of us. Like, I now feel like I'm like, woo, like coming into the light, woo, Phoenix rising. But it took a while to get there, right? It took a long ass time, especially, over the last year and a half, which I've been hearing from a lot of people as things have shifted post-pandemic. There's just been a lot of ebb and flow of just the way we're doing business and the way we're interacting with each other. So, in that process of going through the transformation, like the visibility, of course, it doesn't have to yet be at the level that you know that you're going to get to. Yeah. But how do you feel in terms of just like being more aligned? Like, do you feel like you are more aligned than you were last year? And with that in mind, that it would just feel more authentic to be visible today than it was perhaps last year when we were ironically in this very expensive container with the intention to be more visible. But in some ways I felt like, oh, I don't feel as aligned as I want. I want to hide. That's how I was feeling last year.
Yeah, it was also, you and I talk about this. It was a mastermind that was very, very results focused. It's like pedal to the metal. We're going to go. We're going to achieve. We're going to like do all these things, which is, I think, valuable. But if you are in a little bit of a season of burnout and you're also there's also a lot of I guess competition for, well, what are your social numbers, or what are you, how much money did you earn last year? It just felt very competitive, which again, I think served a bit of a purpose, but I think it just stepping out of that container to just take a little bit of a break, knowing results are being achieved, things are getting done, but they're not getting done in like a pressure cooker.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That pressure cooker feeling. I mean, it's not a good feeling, but I think sometimes we might inadvertently place ourselves into those environments thinking that that's the way to grow. Yeah. Like, we got to hustle to grow and transform. It's not necessarily what we really need to have success.
Yeah. Well, and what I love about today, it's community. It's easygoing. I mean, we're meeting each other. We're talking about business. But there's not a competitive, I'm not feeling a competitive.
You gotta jump and say how much you made at that launch.
Yeah, I'm not
I did a $500,000 launch.
It's just more, I feel supportive here today. And I think that community is important, and finding that right community. And it's interesting, I'm hearing about different groups or masterminds that you all have participated in the last, I don't know how long it's been going on, but that's exciting for me to hear. That there are these containers out there that sound like they're supportive for all of you. That's really exciting to hear that these containers
Yeah.
are happening.
Yeah, I think, it's that support and that community and that of this authenticity that's important. And, it's not to say that that was completely lacking. I mean, some of the connections and relationships I
Are
built
huge.
last year have been huge. I wouldn't be sitting here in this space today if it wasn't for that mastermind.
Really?
Because
Okay.
I met somebody who I saw somebody else speak at her event who knows the owner of the space. So it's like you look at the ripple effect of relationships, it's really about the relationships. And even if you're in an environment that might feel in some instances like high pressure or like you still want to make sure that you identify those people that you have that like thread of understanding with and that connection with to bring that forward, right? So I think that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Well, that being said, in our candid conversation, how meta, right? I want to know more, like I'm sure everyone else does too, about the type of work that you're doing now with professionals. And I know you work especially with middle management. And
Yeah.
you have, a new program.
Yeah.
That's also something that you've been spending so much time on over the
I
last
know.
year. So
I
I didn't
know.
even really get into that. It's like
Yeah.
a book, mastermind,
Yeah.
and new managers academy. So can
Yeah.
you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, when I left corporate in 2021, I thought I was going to leave and go be an executive coach, really kind of a one lane type of situation. And I ended up going back into HR consulting, which I know I've talked with many of you about today at our tables, but I thought I was done with that. But then I found great satisfaction in doing this fractional HR consulting work where, as I like to describe it, I could parachute in and help a company and be their interim CHRO or whatever the title's called to help shore up a team, help shore up the HR team or the office services team, work the C-suite also and just provide that stability and all of that. So I guess I ended up diversifying my portfolio after I left. It's like I had an open mind doing all these different things, but I always knew, like I talked about a little bit, my fascination with leadership and leaders. And doing what I do, there's so many leaders or managers who would come to talk to me about broken teams or someone on the team who's struggling. It's just such a common theme for me, and I've got my kind of repertoire of questions like, well, did you do this? Did you do this? And I found there were some common themes in how a person wasn't being served or a process or a structure wasn't being served, and that was contributing to the problem. So I put together, I really love working with leaders and helping them solve those different situations. But I put together, I did a brain dump, I guess you could say, so to speak, on like how do we help our managers or leaders shore up their people in a way that can help grow the team, grow the business, reach the financial results. I know that's the journey we're all on, is to have a successful business. But I did this brain dump really from the time you're hiring someone all the way to firing someone and the journey in between on like coaching people, onboarding people, difficult conversations. That's another one of my kind of areas of passion is difficult conversations. I know a lot of people don't like them because they're difficult, they're hard. I like them. I've been practicing now, like what's the book, Outliers, 1,000 hours? Or, I have 1,000 hours of difficult conversations. I like it. And I put together, I call it, I kind of brand it a little bit differently based on the audience. I had initially branded it New Manager Academy. I think I'm now calling it like Founders Leadership something. I think it's on one of the things. But it's really helping, it could be helping an HR team figure out how to build the structure, the infrastructure for the people, or helping a small business building infrastructure for the people, or helping a manager who's struggling. It's like, how do I do this? It's just behind this curtain. Human resources, trained information that I find is in great service to the people who need it. And Nadia knows a lot about the project. So I built it. I built 10 modules, pre-recorded them, put together PDF, but I also have been asked to teach the modules, over Zoom or something like that. So that's a passion project that I'm working on as well, is how can we equip our leaders, our teams with that information, that infrastructure, to have great teams, great people, because we know that great people can help us get the business result that we need.
So who is it for at this point? Because it sounds like it's had some evolution, not just middle management, but also, people maybe who are like in a directorial type of role,
100%.
founders.
Yeah, I mean, again, I could rebrand this in like 10 different ways or brand it in 10 different ways because it could hit 10 different audiences. I've had people see the material, it's like, oh, that's for an HR team. It's like, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that could be for like a founder and the leadership team. Yes. That could be for people that have just gotten promoted. Yeah, it serves a large group of people. It's beneficial to all different people because it's just foundational and then builds. I was actually talking to my sister-in-law yesterday. I'm staying with my brother and my sister-in-law. They live here. And she's like, I'm having this employee. It's like so challenging. I'm like, yeah, I get it.
I get it.
Yeah, and she hadn't really managed a team before. So this is new to her, even though she's a very successful marketing.
She works a pretty like high level role.
She does. She's in a very high level role, but now she's gotten more team members. She said, I've never had a difficult employee before. I'm like, well, welcome.
Wow, lucky you.
Welcome. Yeah, lucky you. Welcome. Yes, this happened. So, and she's getting great counsel from her HR and her leadership team on how to navigate it, but it's not easy. It's not easy. So I just wanted to create content that would serve like, well, you know, what do the job descriptions look like? Do we have a good onboarding? Are people clear? Are we setting clear vision and mission as leaders? Are we having those tough conversations? There's a lot to answer.
I feel like so much is like screwed up in the onboarding process. Like I prefer like working on improving our onboarding process. It's like oftentimes you think, oh, it's plenty of information, but it's because that's coming from your entrepreneurial brain.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you think that's plenty of information. Meanwhile, like the person is like a deer in headlights, but they don't always communicate when they don't understand something either.
Yeah.
So that also can be a point of frustration for many leaders.
Yes, and I've been asked a lot, like, what's the most common, I guess, leadership failure? What's the most common business failure from a people perspective? Pretty much 100%, I have to say, it's communication.
Right.
It's communication. It's a breakdown in information. It wasn't clear. It wasn't the mission just wasn't clear. The job description wasn't clear. The deliverable wasn't clear. There's so many things that break down. I see it all the time. It's probably 100% is the breakdown in someone's performance, the breakdown in a company's. It just goes on and on and on. That's another just fascinating thing for me to watch and observe.
That is fascinating. It's crazy. Well, what is your call to action? I think it's time to bring up your beautiful PDF.
Oh, and you don't need. Well, Nadia asked me to put together an offer for all of you. So, in my email, it's very kate@katewalker.com if you want to ask me more. But yeah, so this is Beyond the Startup, Master the Art of People Leadership. This is what I was sort of talking about, and I'm branding it Founder and CEO Management Academy. And it's really just to transform anybody who's managing people, anybody who's trying to figure out how do we get the process and structure together. So what I wanted to offer to the group is just 20% off a 5 or 10 module package, which I'm happy to teach in person. I think that's most impactful. But really, at the end of the day, if any of this intrigues you, the people part of your business, managing people, just reach out. I'm always happy to have a conversation just to hear what's happening and see if I can help give you, honestly, like any free nuggets of information that would be beneficial to you. So yeah, that's what I do. I do interim fractional HR consulting, helping in that way. I do different facilitations for management conversations, executive coaching, one-on-one containers, and then really trying to bring all of this information to groups and people.
And then where can people find your book who don't have it?
So it's on Amazon. It's A Candid Conversation, Lessons in Life, Love and Leadership, Kate Walker, Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble, all the places. But it's...
Do you have the Instagram?
I do, at the Kate Walker. At the Kate Walker is Instagram. My LinkedIn, Kate Walker, SPHR. So I'd love to connect with all of you, stay in touch as supporters of each other, supporters of our work.
Absolutely.
And so I mean, the book, it's interesting to get the feedback on the book. Yeah, it's an arc. I think different people get different things. I actually had a client, a brand new client, who saw my book on my website. She's like, oh my gosh, the book, I'm gonna get the book. I'm like, okay. And they credit client. Like, okay. And she came back and she said, I opened the book and I read the start. It's very personal. I said, it is very, but it's out there. I'm going to own my personal journey. It's very vulnerable. I said, yeah, it is. She said, so I actually kind of skipped ahead, and there's a values exercise in the book, which is something else I talk with leaders about. It's like, what are your values? Like, pick what are your 5 to 7 core values, and how does that drive you? Like, what drives your day? Is it family? Is a core value, and that's how you drive your day, and that's how you drive your schedule? Mm-hmm. Is it integrity? Like, all the decisions I make are going to be made with the highest levels of integrity across what I do. So she called out the values exercise, which, and I give credit in the notes, but there's a book called The Leadership Challenge, which I found to be really, really impactful. I read it maybe 5 or 7 years ago in a corporate setting, and just found the 5 different core principles of the Leadership Challenge to be very powerful. The values audit to be very powerful. I talk about my own experience with the values audit, and then I did it in front of coworkers. Yeah. And one of the values I chose was freedom, which in my mind, I was kind of thinking like, well, let freedom ring, I guess is number 1, like let freedom ring, but also like freedom for myself, like freedom of my schedule, freedom, just freedom. And I had that as one of my cards, and as we were going around the table, and other people were like, results or action, I started to feel very embarrassed that I had freedom as one of my values. So I put it back in the deck. Oh, wow. And I'm like, well, I feel like freedom that's not really like vibing with this corporate group. So I put it back in the deck, but
because corporate's the opposite of freedom.
Yeah, it's not freedom. It's not freedom.
Don't say that.
Right. So as I got into my next stage of my journey, going out on my own, I'm like, hell yeah, freedom. I'm like, that's one of the reasons I went out on my own, is to have freedom of schedule, just freedom of decision making, freedom of steering my company.
And now you're living in one of the most gorgeous parts of San Diego. Hell yeah, freedom.
Yeah. So I may have been embarrassed that what I felt was a value or a need back at that time, but it's like, no, I want to live my values
on your own terms.
Yeah, on my own terms. It feels important to me.
Very empowering.
So the values audit is in the book as well.
Well, thank you so much for coming
Nadia.
to talk to me and all of us today. Definitely get a hold of Kate. She knows her stuff. So you would be missing out on a lot if you didn't book a call with her. So I'm just saying.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you.
Okay, guys, so we are a tad bit behind schedule. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do another session of breakouts that correlate to this conversation on mindset, and then we're going to get into our next fireside chat. So Karma, I think we'll be doing our fireside chat at about 4:15 rather than 4, so we're just about 15 minutes behind. It's nothing too crazy. So we're going to break up into groups again. I'm not going to count you off because I feel like that made my brain hurt for some reason. And I felt like we all got a little confused. But I want you to find folks that you haven't connected with yet. And so groups of 3 at each table, people that you haven't connected with yet. And did you get all unmiked and all that good stuff? Okay,
Thank
perfect.
you. Yeah.
Okay. So once everyone is situated, okay.
Or it's fear. And the reality is, as you know, being an expert in this, AI has been with us for decades. And the AI that we have today is technically narrow AI, meaning it's not like an entity, it's not sentient. You can't it's not going to go off and do things without you being the person that inputs the command. Yes. So therefore, it really is a bunch of algorithms that we have branded to be, this is AI. It's fancy algorithms that we're calling AI, and that's fine. There's nothing to fear. It is making your life a lot easier and a lot more efficient. And I'm pretty sure that that's part of why you are so involved in AI and tech, because you see how much more efficient people can be in the space. So if you could tell everybody a little bit more about yourself, how you got involved in AI, and specifically the work that you do with AI.
There you go.
Yeah, AI. Where to start, right? So I've always been a techie girl. I've always had a computer since I was born, literally. And
I would like to see those baby pictures.
I know,
Yeah,
it looks like, what was it, Commodore 54 or something like that, Amiga, whatever those ones. But so my mom's uncle was in IBM in the project that they started internet. So he was in that project. So we always had internet from the beginning. And my cousin was a computer scientist, and so when I was little, what was it, 1991, the internet was found? Since then, we were always on the internet. We started building web pages with my cousin. Sorry.
I don't know how that.
So anyway, I got into marketing, I got into tech,
Oh, I think it's because you're at.
Yeah,
why don't we
too close.
let's move over. Yeah.
So I've always been a marketing and tech nerd, and
Keep scooching. I got it.
okay. So I've always been a marketing and tech nerd, and also I always loved different tools, and I always want to experiment with different tools. So of course, when AI first came out, well, like Nadia is saying, right? AI have always been out in some shape or form for decades now, which is algorithms. But generative AI came out November 2022, which generative AI is the language learning models. And that's the one that can actually train itself and push out information to you, which is ChatGPT, OpenAI. So that is fairly new. November 2022, that's when I jumped on it as the, what is it called? The new shiny object syndrome. Yes, I have that. Shiny object syndrome. I have to look at all the tools. And I have been working with tech companies. So working with tech companies, of course, that always interests you. First, I started with a few of the courses that first came out about language learning models. And then I became a prompt engineer, and I started, prompt engineering, and got a little crazy with it. And then I started testing all the different tools, and my team started testing all the tools. And there is all these tools started popping up. Now, there's a bunch of AI tools started popping up. Also, all of these platforms started having these AI features on them, right? So it started causing all of these AI overwhelm. And everybody started saying, oh, our tool is better than yours and everything. But yeah, I got into different masterminds, and we started learning all together, and then we started becoming crazy people. But anyway, that's how I started teaching AI. But yes, I believe in AI because it is almost like, when internet started, people were like, oh, what is happening? It's gonna take our jobs away, right? What happened? It took some jobs away, but it also created lots of jobs, and it made our life easier, right? It also helped a lot of people open businesses, right? Entrepreneurship is so much more easier. Now AI is like 100 times on steroids internet, right? And it's gonna make so much more changes in our lives. Yes, it may, lose some jobs. Some people may lose some jobs, but it's gonna also create some jobs. And it is gonna help us streamline, automate, and make some of the things, make things a lot more efficient. So it's gonna give us more time for strategy and creativity, which is great because as human, we're gonna be using our brain more instead of our hands and our bodies. And we can use our bodies for working out and getting healthy. yeah, there are two types of people now. Some that can't live without AI, right? And those who are still hesitant. And there's a very small portion who's saying, oh, hell no to AI, who don't understand that you're not going to be able to, do without AI. It's going to get in your life somehow.
Yet they still ask Alexa, what's the weather?
Right. Exactly. And you know what? If you're walking down the street, AI is going to catch you somehow, somewhere. So it's in our lives. Sorry. You're going to have to get used to it. Yes, there are some things that we need to worry about, but we can't do anything about it. We need to make sure people at the top need to have some policies and procedures in place and regulations in place and restrictions in place. So hopefully those things will happen. We just got to be aware of it, but it will help us so much. And I always tell everyone, don't rely on it, don't depend your life on it, obviously. Check and verify. It may be a military term, I'm a military brat. Check and verify, but use it. Make it easier on you. A project that may take me 4 days now is taking me 1 day. Something that may take me 4 hours is now taking me 1 hour. So now I have more time for strategy and creativity.
Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit. So when you, in November 2022, which I remember this time when I learned about ChatGPT, you know who taught me about ChatGPT? I was humbled so much because of who taught me. Somebody who is more than double, probably almost more than double my age. A man who is a great friend. He is in his early 70s. And he was like, have you heard of ChatGPT? He's a great friend. Leadership coach, he does a lot of stuff in real estate. I was like, chat what? No. I mean, I always consider myself pretty tech savvy, pretty hip on the trends and the things and whatnot. I'm like, show me. Oh, he loves showing about new tools. Like, this is one of those people that's like, oh, okay. Like, he couldn't wait for the second to screen share and bust it out. I was like, what? You can do what? And now, as you were saying, it's such a huge part of my everyday life. I mean, I have chats open on just about everything. Like, even all the way down to, like, if I alternate my running speed from 6.0 between 6.0 and 5.5, how long will it take, what will my running speed be? Or like, borderline neurotic stuff in there for sure. But it's also really helped our team be more efficient. Like, we've been able to configure custom GPTs for each of our team members so they have their own dedicated assistants. We do stuff like client GPTs, and there's so many things that I continuously learn. So at the end of 2022, you had your shiny object syndrome, as all of us did. So at that time, were you thinking that you were going to be learning for the purpose of coaching other people about it? Or was it really just like a curiosity for you?
Great question. So I'm a teacher by trade. And also, if it's about marketing, so probably I'm going to be teaching it at some point. I mean, at that point, I wasn't thinking I'm going to teach this, but naturally, it would get there. And of course, if I like it and if I'm interested, it would get there. So it happens naturally, really.
Yeah. So it was just kind of very intrinsic for you, because a lot of us, well, I mean, not us, you and me, but just people in general, I've been like hearing, observing, like, oh, like everyone's an AI expert now. Like, there's just like this like cringe factor to people who have, they believe, jumping on the AI bandwagon to teach, to monetize. But it's like, in my view, if you are really skilled and savvy with something, like, why not pass on that information and that ability? Like, why gatekeep? It's not always about like, oh, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to monetize and take advantage of this trend or something. I feel like people think that's what's going on. It's not necessarily the case. And I know, like, you do so much mentorship. You're firm as a mentor with SCORE, and you do stuff at the SBDC, right? there's so many different entities that you're mentoring and giving back, Nevada Partners, which is where we're going to be tomorrow. So if you could tell us a little bit more about how are you empowering people with AI? Like how are you do that with your clients and then with, you know, the communities that you're giving back to?
Yeah, so I mean, when you say teaching AI, obviously I'm not teaching AI in everything, right? I mean, I'm not teaching AI in robotics or
You're not teaching people
machine
how to code
or something.
No.
Exactly, right? I'm teaching AI in marketing. So in the area that I know, that I am in. And because of that, it's my expertise, and because of that, I can talk about it, I can teach about it. And I'm a strategist, so that's why I can show how they can utilize this technology correctly, how they can tailor it to their business. And that's one of my pet peeves, honestly, where people take ChatGPT and just use it like, hey, create content for me. I mean, not that generic, but in some ways a lot more generic, and try to use it. And I'm like, no, still, you have to have strategy first, right? First, you have to have your strategy and then use it. Because it's just the same as where, you know, some clients come to me and they're like, we hired an agency and we've been spending all this money and we're still not getting any results. Because that agency didn't give you a strategy, they gave you something generic, and that's why you're not getting results. Same thing with AI. If you don't have a strategy, nobody's a magician. AI is not a magician, right? So when I am with my clients too, there are some that are scared to use AI. Number one, for confidential information purposes. And I always tell them, do not put any confidential information out there. Because whatever you put in AI, it's generative AI, it really goes out to the world, right? So don't put out any confidential information, take out any names, any data that is personal, that is client information. Use it like a template and then add your information on there. So then you don't have to worry about anything. And then some are like, what if they take it as, you know, real advice? Well, if you said it with your mouth, they're going to take it as advice. Are they taking it as, you know, it's still liability to you if you said it with your mouth, right? I mean, or if you thought about it yourself instead of. So it's similar to that, but you always got to tailor it to yourself. So I always first do the strategy with them together, tailor the strategy, and then show them how to use the AI, and then show them how to actually edit that, right? Don't just take it as is.
Humanize.
Yeah, humanize it, exactly.
I love that so much. Like, oftentimes, I mean, some clients, they just want fast results. They're like, can you show me the results, like the ROI? And we're also very strategy driven. Like, we start every engagement with a strategy first. And sometimes people are like, oh my goodness, like, this is a lot to take in, but we want to ensure that all of the activities that we're outlining are going to actually align with their objectives. And then from there, we start, you know, utilizing the different tools, whether that be ChatGPT or other automation, or, you know, like in your guys' case, like you would come in with like your go high level expertise and all the things. But it's like, if you don't have a strategy first, you're kind of just spinning your wheels and throwing things out there to see what sticks. And that's what you were saying too, Sherry. You're like, oh, I'm procrastinating. It's because, you know, logically, you're like, I need a strategy because I don't want to start taking action that isn't actually connected with the result and the vision that I have. And in order to do that, I have to sit down and do the thing. It takes time. Exactly.
You want to know something so funny really quick?
Yeah.
Yesterday, I actually typed into ChatGPT. I said, draw me an image of myself based on what you know about me on our previous interactions.
I need to see this.
Oh my God, it was hilarious. It was like a cartoon image. I'm like, what the hell is happening?
That's so funny. But yeah, in terms of like getting the best outcome with ChatGPT, like, you know, I'm sure like Karma and I are going to have slightly different strategies, and there's always a different way to get to, you know, a same or similar destination. But I know something that I do is I love to give chat personas first and foremost. You know, a detailed persona, like please act like for like someone on our team, for example, like we have an influencer and publicity outreach coordinator. So her GPT that's configured for her and her role, number one, when we're configuring like a custom GPT, we're actually going to take like some of the deliverables and duties in her contract and feed that in there. And then we're going to say, you're going to act as an assistant to this real person who might come through with some questions around these types of challenges. But if you're just opening up a chat, like just a regular chat in ChatGPT, which everyone who doesn't have like Chat Plus, like version 4 or above, now it's 4.0, and it's just, I think another version just came out. There's like this, there's this other one. It's really fast, but I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, I just want to go back to 4.0. But you open up a chat, you're like, please act like an expert, content strategist who is, used to working with people who were like doing network marketing and are familiar with like digital products and blah 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 blah. And then you can feed more specific information about yourself. And then you give it like, okay, now I want you to create like 5 blogs or whatever. So when you're working with your clients, I'm sure that, and we deal with this too, one of the main challenges is like, okay, well, what tool do I do first? Like, it's easy, of course, to default to OpenAI, to default to ChatGPT. I know I often do, but then there's also like, there's Claude, and then there's, all of these other things coming out, all the like tools that we use regularly, they've incorporated AI features. So how do you help them with that overwhelm and not being like, my toolbox is too big, I'm scared, and I don't know what to do now?
This is a great question because, so like I said, shiny object syndrome, and I started playing with too many tools, and then we have a mastermind where every Monday we look at 5 different tools, and I've been in the mastermind, a year and a half now, so think about how many tools we looked at. And I bookmarked all of these tools. Can you imagine me remembering all of these tools? So when someone asks me, what is a good tool for this? I'm like, I have no idea. I can't remember anything anymore. And then I can't even find a tool for it. How am I going to look it up now? So anyway, this is funny. But there are so many tools, but we ended up basically creating different tech stacks for different type of industries. But now we do have a tool that is all-in-one end-to-end automation tool that has a bunch of different AI tools that are integrated in it, so you don't have to do other integrations with Zapier or anything, so it makes it a lot easier.
Not everyone in here knows what Zapier is. Can you say?
Zapier is a platform that connects 2 different platforms together. So before, what we were doing is, let's say you have 10 different tools, we would connect them together, and then if something went wrong, if one of those links broke, you would lose the whole necklace, right? So people would freak out. Now, since everything is integrated in one tool, we don't have to worry about it. Client doesn't have to worry about it. We don't get calls in the middle of the night that their system is down or anything like that, right? So from the content creation all the way to appointment booking, there's just one tool, and all the AI features are in that one tool. So everything is so much more easier. But yeah, when it comes to AI tools, there's so many different tools. Lead generation tools that automates your lead generation, personalize your emails, your content, lead strategy tools, right? Predictive analysis. It looks at what people bought before, and it knows what they're gonna buy, and then it acts that way. Yeah, those cost a lot. Yeah. And then there's behavior analytics, right? It knows, when they emailed you before or how they behaved before with your product or service, your company, and then it knows when you should have a touch point with them again. So these things help us a lot because Now we know when to connect with them, where to connect with them, and these touch points are very, very important. Before, we wouldn't know when to follow up. We would only follow up whenever we thought it was good, right? And then content creation tools, right? So we have a tool now. It is amazing. Before, what was the content creation process? Now, let's say we're going to create a piece of content for a client. First, we would go look at all the content about, their niche and search whatever is performing the best, and then we would decode it, meaning what's in the caption, what's in the copy, what is the visual looking like, and then we would kind of edit it to our brand, right? Change the copy a little bit, make a different visual so that it performs, because now we know what is trending. But in order to do that, first we assign the copy to a person, use the project management tool, and then we assign the video to the video editor, change the status in the project management tool. Someone edits the copy, someone does this, put it in Airtable, Asana, this, that. Now we have one tool. From this one tool, we can sort out which one is the top trending content. That already decodes our content. We can edit the content from that one tool. We don't have to use a project management tool because it's already changing the status in that one tool. And we don't have to use a content calendar. We don't have to use a scheduling tool. It already schedules it from that one tool, posts it in our social media platforms. So we got rid of all of these scheduling tools, all of these project management tools, all of these editing tools, copywriting tools, and everything. Except you do use one video editing tool, except this
So do you
one.
Do you feed it the content, or does it create the content for you?
It creates the content for
What
you.
about if you want to be in the content?
You are in the content.
So you have to film it, right?
You just do the video editing part, and then you put the video there. However, there is a remixer option. If you find the video, and if you have a AI twin, then you can replace it with your AI twin.
I need to know this.
However, when you do those type of things, you don't know how much it's going to perform because you are also taking the code from the other video.
Okay.
So there are those things, right? You can make it easier for you, but you won't know the performance of it.
We have a client who recently asked to have an AI version of himself made because he is in a very, very extremely busy position in New York City. Very time poor, doesn't have a lot of time. And we're like, okay, we're gonna do this, but ever the fan of authenticity, I'm like, really, I encourage you to try and just, record even just 60 seconds of content a day. I am in Slack. Our team is in Slack. Just Slack it over, and then we will edit it from there. But I'm a fan always, of course, of exploring new tools. So we are playing with this. But what you were talking about with all these different things is very intriguing. So are you talking about the platform that you've developed? Okay, so just as a quick example, just to give you a high-level breakdown of some of the tools that we use, which is a lot. We have Buffer, we have Canva Pro, like for scheduling all our clients' content. We have Canva Pro, we have Monday.com for project management. I still have Airtable, but I'm about to cancel that because we had actually had a special version of Airtable created, and that was like a whole disaster. It was a very expensive disaster as well. And then, oh my goodness, just so many. Of course, we use ChatGPT for our, development. Then we have Slack, multiple Slack accounts. So, MailChimp. Yep, MailChimp is there. So, in your view, how many of those platforms and we use video AI as well. And now we might start playing with Descript. So just as just hearing all of these tools, how many of those for you are feeling redundant or could be streamlined into the platform you're talking about?
You can get rid of at least 4 of those, at least. But also, if you have video AI, why are you using this script?
Because so here's the thing with video AI, guys, if you don't know about this, when you are looking at editing video, it automatically cuts your video into chapters or into short clips. And so there's like, if you want to have a long form video, like 20 minutes, whatever, it won't let you, it just chops it into chapters and short clips.
Video AI doesn't have that feature?
No, it does. That's what forces you into chopping them. So you can't have the long form video edited. So the Descript will allow you to keep, maintain the length of the original content, but it's highly complicated and very annoying. So we're probably going to cancel that.
Opus does allow
Oh.
the longer and the smaller.
Yes.
Opus, I'm always open to new tools and trying new things.
However, Opus doesn't perform as good. Opus
Video AI is fast. I think that's part of why we like it. But then, the issue was, so what we ended up doing is we just used the some like brief editing features on Canva Pro, and then we imported into YouTube, and then we did more subtitling and stuff there. So I have a feeling the platforms that you're going to view as redundant and unnecessary are Buffer and MailChimp and maybe Monday.com.
Yes, and Airtable.
Well, Airtable's is going away, but Lauren's going to be very happy about that. She's so over it.
MailChimp is email marketing, right?
Yes, and the thing for us is that we have multiple client accounts in our MailChimp. So it's going to be very tough to get rid of MailChimp. But always intrigued about streamlining tools, because what we have experienced, and I've heard from other clients and have tried different platforms that streamline everything together, is that sometimes they find that it doesn't deliver the same quality that they were looking for, the level of customization that they were seeking that a particular platform
That was
offers.
really in the past. That's really in the past.
Yeah.
That has changed substantially.
Yeah, I think you two and Karma, you're definitely doing a lot in the way of streamlining tools together, which is very fascinating. I'm always open to getting demos.
Actually, things better. Actually, I would say better now than the individual having individual platforms, because they talk to each other all internally versus
Right.
Yeah, so and of course there's a fine line too. There are all-in-one platforms that are great, but it may not be for all businesses, right? There are certain type of businesses that are going to need more features. They're going to need different type of features. And then again, with AI, there are certain things that you can really customize and build. And it's like unimaginable. Like we are creating certain agents that really do crazy things that you can't even imagine when clients want. And it automates things that you can't, I can't even give examples right now without showing, honestly. That is, and some clients, of course, like enterprise clients who are gonna need like Salesforce Einstein. It's crazy, like it has everything on it, where it's create ads for you. And multiple different ads that you don't even have to touch it. It creates the visual and the copy and everything per product. So multiple different versions of it. And you just send it, and it already has the predictive analysis and everything on there.
Now, Salesforce is like super robust. That's for, the big companies for sure. Well, this has been a super illuminating conversation. I know you're going to be workshop this Sunday on how, for us, who are especially thinking about that thought leadership pillar and the 3 pillars of visibility that we were talking about earlier. It will allow you to, build out, more of your repository of content. So can you just very briefly break down what's going to be included in your workshop, and then we will give a call to action for everybody. In fact, while you're talking about that, I can pull it up on the screen.
Sure. So we are going to actually talk about how to create a tailored strategy and create that buyer's journey with AI. Also, we're going to create a year's worth of content, and we are going to create an AI marketing agent during this workshop. It is on Sunday here at 1 p.m. So I would highly recommend you to be here.
A year worth of.
And decided that it was time to look for a place for myself. Now, I have a co-founder. She's my best friend. Totally lucked out when I met her. Actually, she saw, I'll share a quick little story. So anyway, she is a political consultant by nature. Just got off the Kamala campaign. Oh, that's that? And so she and I were looking for a place to rent. Well, it was insanely hard. People were like, it was like a 600 square foot office, and this guy was like, why would we rent you? You're not public traded. And I was like, what? Publicly traded company wants a 600 square foot office. This is insane. Yeah. And like, we don't see your vision. Can you guarantee it's your firstborn child in 10 years? So anyway, randomly found this space who wasn't being looked at forever. It was a BMW motorcycle showroom for a long time. And then it sat empty for almost 3 years. And we said, we'll take it. And we just kind of did it organically. We put in all of our savings. We, sold some stock, pulled out some 401, and wanted to do a full co-working space and realized it was not quite the sell that we thought it was going to be. Bigger cities got it, but Las Vegas didn't get it. So we added offices, and then 5 years later, added our 2.0 offices, and we're up to, Jared, how many offices? 38 offices. And here we are, still kicking.
Here you are, still kicking. I love it. So the year that, so let's back up a little bit just because I love taking people through the journey. So you find the space. What year was that when you found the space?
2019. We probably found it the very end of 2018. We opened our doors on May 4th, 2019.
Okay, and so it was then not very long before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And so
we were like, what did we do?
What was that like?
Scary. Yeah, we just dumped everything into it. It was super, super scary. We thought, what did we do? Because we were a public space. And we have to follow every single letter of the law rule because Megan's husband's in politics, so he's a county commissioner. So there's no like, oh, we didn't know. Oh, slap us on the hand. You know what I mean? So like we had to follow everything to the letter of the law.
So how did you navigate that? Was it like social distancing signs everywhere, or was it, we pulled back significantly from promotion? Like, obviously so much about entrepreneurship is pivoting and resilience, and, here you are thinking like, oh my God, like I have this new adventure and it's about to like really take off, and then like, oh hi, like COVID-19.
And no, we had 3 months where we were just door shut. So people who had their private offices could still come in and access anything in their private office. No open space members could be here, and we did not actually charge our members during that time because we weren't able, the landlord lives in China, which is amazing because nobody's looking down my throat, right? Nobody's like, don't do that. No, our cams covered nothing, but it's really great to have them hands off, right? So they were like, you still need to pay us. We don't play by the United States rules. But we weren't going to charge our members, and we got about $10,000 in COVID relief funds, but no, we just begged, borrowed, and stealed, and we ended up for the next 2 years with the landlord paying them an additional $2,000 every month until we trued up what we were late on. So.
And then you were like, okay, things are starting to get back to normal, and then the expansion. So
yeah,
let's talk about that period of time.
Okay, well, things were starting to get along, and we just had all these plans, and it was like, boom, cancer. So
I love how you're just like,
look, I had 3 solid mammograms up to this point, which mean nothing because everybody gets dense breast tissue back, and right, every single ultrasound or mammogram should come with an ultrasound. But caught it at stage 4, which de novo, worst time to catch it. But really gave me the most amazing sense of let's do some shit. So people were like, gonna expand right now? And I was like, what else am I gonna do? Right? Opportunity came up, and it's been such a fun journey.
So how soon after, were you already in the midst of working out this expansion when you learned that you had stage 4, or what did happen? Let's talk about that.
Nope. Found the lump in 2020 October, so just 2 years plus ago. And then it was a CrossFit gym, and they're still here. They just moved down to a cheaper area with the landlord, and Amalza Fitness, and they're fabulous. So it opens, and I just keep going back and forth. I was like, it was the vision. Like, we always wanted to expand. We always wanted, always wanted that space. After buying out, when he was like, during COVID, because he was like, look, he was like, I'm just going to leave in the night. I'm like, well, let me take your space. And he never did, but the landlord wanted to put a fish market in there.
Right.
So to which I was like, okay, A, you're not zoned for that. B, I'm your anchor tenant, and I will absolutely leave if you stick a fish market right there. So I just kept wearing on the...
Imagine the smell.
I know. And there's like a fish market right across the street in Arroyo. Like,
Literally.
I have to tell him he's not zoned for things all the time. Like, we couldn't even get a garbage disposal in the sink, right? And I'm like, you think you're going to get a whole fish market over there? That's not how... We were grandfathered in with sprinklers, which is also funny, because the building was built in like 2006, so you'd think that would have been standard, but Vegas. Well, okay, so then, it was post cancer diagnosis.
So when you're like navigating all of this, like, were you like, I really feel, like, what came up for you? Was it like, I feel galvanized to really just keep going, but not, and just keep going, but really in a way that feels bold and
yes,
impactful?
And lots of conversations with the hubs and with Megan and my business partner, who was always like, don't take too much on, but nope, it felt the exact right amount to take on.
And it's absolutely amazing. All you guys need to book yourself a tour so you can go through the entire space, because it's phenomenal. So a lot of the theme of today has been on transformation and on the importance of like going through transformations to be more transformative, to compel others to be more transformative. I think you're really great at telling your story, about reminding people what's possible, about resilience. For so many people, like, being visible without, I mean, let's be honest, for them being visible without all the different challenges that you've been navigating is hard. Like, some people can't, they just can't show up. So what strategies have worked for you to be able to do that? And have you ever had, like, in your mind, like, oh, like, I don't know if I want to show up, or have you always been this trailblazer, just being like, fuck it, I'm showing up?
It's so interesting, because in the beginning, I was very much, I mean, we all are when we get started out, right? Like, you're shy, you don't want to put yourself out there, you're like, my face doesn't need to be the face of the brand, right? Like, and that's what I felt the whole time, until getting a cancer absolutely empowered me to be like, no, you know what? People need some personality behind a brand, and it makes the biggest difference. Engagement's way up. I feel like people want to know your story more. They want to come in and pop in because you are an actual person behind an actual company, and you're not just trying to sell something.
Yeah, 100%. And something that, that we've been talking about and are working on together is like really elevating your personal brand alongside Bottega, because a lot of people, they'll like either A, I feel like they hide behind the business, or B, it's like, oh, it's going to be so separate. Like, oh, if I do a personal brand, I will show up, but then it's going to feel so separate from the business, as opposed to being very like interconnected. It feels very, and I think a lot of that for you is like on the values set. It's just all aligns really well. Like, what strategies could you share that work for you to be able to push through, be visible, and also so authentic?
So I started doing these little like pop-in, hey, cancer updates, trying to keep it light and loose, but also to be encouraging to people, to be like, you can do hard things and own your struggles and your battles, and as long as you're working hard, you can still make anything you want happen.
For people who are just sitting there and like, I can't show up, like, I don't want to show up, even though they are, yes, like, for you it's so, like, you have such ease, and I feel like I, also have, a lot of ease in showing up. I didn't always. Like, I used to be very self-conscious. We were talking earlier about, like, perception and stuff. It's just, like, sometimes I think just something clicks, and I think a lot of it has to do with purpose and wanting to show up for others, and obviously like you hear so much for your members, but also for others who might be going through similar challenges, or maybe it's not, literally cancer, but something that they just feel like it's bottlenecking them in some way.
And I do love hearing those stories and providing an avenue for them to talk through things and stuff like that. You always have to know your boundaries because people can bring you down real fast, right? So you've got to be able to be like, this is what I can give, and not have it be like overwhelming to you because you owe stuff to yourself too. But that is super fulfilling, and I've talked to my husband about that a lot too, is being able to feel like I have experiences that can help other people, whereas before I don't think I did.
Or like, has that been very naturally like, okay, I'm going through this journey, like the experience, like you just kind of talk about the journey as you go, or do you ever do anything a little bit more tactical around like, okay, I'm going to write down these particular reflections?
Oh, I'm writing constantly. I don't think I've written this much since you're forced to in college at all. So I'm writing constantly, and I'm, between like, for me, for my kids, for whatever, like what I'm going through so they can know, but we're also trying to be very vocal with the kids because my kids are 16, 18, and 20, so they're old enough that they need to know. I can't keep them out of the loop. It's not like they're 12, which has been kind of a come to Jesus for me because I've realized what I can put out on like actual public places for them to see. But give me that question again.
Yeah, so I mean, you're totally answering it. I think we're just trying to unpack because it's just so natural for you, and I think for many people it just doesn't. Being able to be visible in this way that's so unabashedly authentic, which is super inspiring, it just doesn't come naturally for people. Even, you know what I mean?
I have always been. I overshare. I'm an oversharer. It is an issue in like every aspect of my life. Yeah, there are definitely things people know about us as a family that we don't need to know.
Your husband's nakedness?
Like the nudity.
Yes.
Or like we can totally sidebar this fireside chat and get into like more tea. More familial tea.
I have no pride when it comes to a laugh, so I will.
Oh my goodness. Well, something else that you're really, really good at, I want to say, is relationships. Because obviously, a space like this, it's a relationship-centric space. And, obviously, there's the utility of having an office, which is great in and of itself. But even beyond that, it's the community that you have built and are continuing to build. I mean, how important is community for growing your business?
It's so important. And I love when people in the private offices come out into the main space because they do all the time. Because people want to feel the energy, right? It's great to shove all your stuff in the office, lock it up, but people are always congregate out here.
Yeah, I love seeing that. Like yesterday, like I said, like a couple people came out. I'm like, ooh, like what's going on? I'm like, come on out, like join the shenanigans.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to open up to Q&A because I know a lot of people have burning questions, not just about you and your story, but about the space and how Bottega works and all of the different things. So let's open it up to Q&A, and I can hand you a mic if you like, or you can shout, whatever feels more comfortable.
So I'm actually very curious. You were actually talking about tying your personal brand with your business brand, okay? And that's something I've been struggling with. So how do you tie? I get that you're sharing your story, your share, and I'm totally good with sharing. Like I'm good with that.
I love it.
How do you tie it together with your business? How do you
So,
balance it?
yeah, and quite frankly, I don't know if it is a good balance what I'm doing, but I'll start with being like, okay, we got this going to Bottega space, and if anybody's wondering, I got this radiation today, no big deal, but check out the podcast room. Or I try to, just integrate random stuff with it. And currently, also look, I'm 45, so I'm not social savvy by any mean, shape, or form. But I'm just straight on cross-posting it between my personal and my graphic design and Bottega, and just trying to mix it all in however I can. But yeah, just don't know if it's a good strategy. It's just kind of what I'm going with right now.
I mean, I think in developing even the marketing strategy for you and Bottega, it was so But it's fairly seamless because it's like your personal brand is really the umbrella for everything that you do. And I think, I always tell people, like, if your personal brand values are very strong and they connect deeply with your ventures, it's not going to be that hard
Shouldn't be
because it's
too
an
hard.
ecosystem for
Right.
you. It's an ecosystem built in your values and your purpose.
That makes sense.
Would you say that feels
Yeah,
apt?
that's why I love you.
I love you too. Love.
You bring it all together in a full circle.
Yeah, for sure. Who else has a question or also would like to know more about the space? Because like I said, we would love to, book anyone in for a tour, know more about membership.
Doing your own
opportunities.
events, doing your own
Yes.
workshops, master classes.
Yes, and we are looking for ambassadors, by the way.
I came to an event here. It's kind of funny because I'm just thinking about how like all the stars align in some weird way. I came to an event when I first got into network marketing and basically just making money online in general in 2021 was with a network marketing company, not the one that I'm with now. I came to an event here and I was one of the hosts of the event with Monate.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and it was extremely out of my comfort zone, but it coming here to this event and basically kind of talking to people and sharing my story. Obviously we're here to help, other aspiring young men and women, make money online, and that is exactly you're sharing your story, but that's exactly what this space allows people to do.
That's what we set it up to do. Yeah, that's what we want. We love to see people grow from the ground up.
Right. Yeah. So I
We're
think
here
that's
for
a
you.
beautiful thing.
Can you tell us about the podcast room? Like, how do you
Yeah.
that work?
So in full transparency, Bottega has its own podcast equipment, so if you are a member, you get to use it for free. But the podcast room that one of our members set up is amazing. She's currently charging $25 an hour, and she'll come in and show you how to do it. It goes right onto your phone. And we were so happy to promote her over us because we want to see her expand and survive and take it to the next level. So, yeah, we mostly just advertise for Pam. It's called the Pod Mother, and it's so cute. Yeah, they can. Jared or Heather can show you when we're done. It's a fun room.
What about a walking tour?
No.
Yeah, take them on a tour, guys. Take them on a tour.
I'm up for it.
Yes, I think that we should culminate with a walking tour, and then we'll come back here after we wrap our fireside.
Perfect.
Sounds fun.
Perfect.
I can do my work.
Yes, 100%. Does anyone else have a question for Colleen
Oh, my husband does.
I don't have a question. I
What
just
is
wanted to
it?
point
about
out.
the moment of the window?
No.
Do we have to tell everybody?
That story is one of the 5 that she doesn't know how not to tell.
So,
My thing before cancer, I mean, it's been a 2-year journey with that. This was growing and thriving and expanding because of her vision, and she's the sweetest person you'll ever meet, right? So in business, I don't know that this isn't a lot of books. A lot of the books that I've read about sales and business and how to be shrewd and make that money, it's never about being sweet and nice, but somehow that has still worked. She'd come home and tell me stories all the time, and I'd be like, don't take that shit, go out. And she will give people time and energy and focus and attention, and that's why she has. I've been here now about 3 or 4 months. There's huge people. There's a huge amount of not just love. Obviously, they obviously want to see her get better, but it's also you've got volunteers for the cause, right? Half the people in here are here because of her. Like they've said,
Oh, that's sweet.
I've been around other Regis or whatever, and I just like the feeling here. I just like the way
It's
that
a vibe.
it's a
Yeah.
vibe. Yeah.
give that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vibes are vibing. We're talking
The
about that.
vibes are vibes.
And it's not. I feel cancer in here. It's more.
I
There's a
hope
vibe.
that's not the vibe. The cancer vibe.
I mean, I'm not trying to take everybody down. I'm just like, there's a vibe, and that matters. And it's not something that you can. I guess you can teach it just by saying, just be kind and nice, and it pays dividends.
Yeah, if my kids heard that one more time, they're gonna go ballistic. It's just been like the mantra. Just be nice, be nice.
And I don't know how to do that. That's
Whatever.
It's been helpful to.
I would like to piggyback off what Jared is saying. There's the authenticity in when you meet her, it is just genuine sweetness and encouragement. And so anybody who's really signed up for the membership has really like felt that when they talk to her.
This should never end.
It is contagious. So I think like for me anyway, when I do a tour, I'm not trying to sell you anything, even though I am, right? It's more of showing you what Bottega is and what we have to offer. And we have all those things because Kelli put the right people in place.
For sure, takes the right people.
With the same vibe, if you will, and they want to be a part of that. So it helped build the proper community. So that is what you really want to be a part of. That is what you want the membership for, to have a little piece of that.
Right. They've got plenty of spaces like this around town that I've been to, but none that I've kind of felt what I feel in here, especially after meeting you. Yeah.
That's energy for sure. I mean, like, you know, your energy, it permeates the space. And like, yeah, like some of them are very sterile. Like even, I mean, some could be very, nice spaces, like aesthetically pleasing, but it just feels very kind of cold and it doesn't really think about
in, you go out,
community.
You go, yeah.
Right. So it's really about, I think, showing people like what's possible. Like you're talking about the podcast room. It's like, okay, you want to tell your story more. You want to build out your thought leadership more. So like this is what's possible. Like you get the existing room built in, but if you want to like elevate your podcast experience to the next level, you can utilize the Pod Mother for only $25 a month. And it's just like people are like, oh, and of course I think values, like really like reinforcing of course the values that you are all about, the Bottega is all about, and making sure that people are drawn to those values, because otherwise it's like, oh, like I don't know if I want to hear, like bringing that like yuckiness into the space, because then again it's like it's a ripple effect.
Right.
That's why targeting is important.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. We need to get a neon sign that says that in here.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Well, this is a fabulous conversation. I'm excited for people to go on a tour. Why don't we, go on a tour led by Jared, and then we will briefly reconvene before wrapping. And when we reconvene, we're going to be matching you guys out into accountability partners. I want you to book into each other's calendars, like for real. So you can, keep each other accountable on those things that we were talking about earlier, like the challenges you were talking about. Even if you match with someone that wasn't at your table, you might need to reshare what that challenge was, and then, plan to meet up and stay in touch. But actually schedule a call, or, don't just be like, oh, I want to, we'll talk. And then, you go and the weekend happens and Thanksgiving happens, Christmas happens, and, that relationship is gone. We don't want that. All right, I digress. Tour time. Thanks, guys. Thank you for this conversation.